Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Deborah, and today I'm going to try and do some faux cabinet cards. So I have a couple of real ones here. I got these when I was overseas, and so I don't understand what it says, but it does say photograph, and I'm guessing that's the name of the photographer. They often are just sort of an advert for the photographer. You can see it's kind of stuck on, the little picture gets stuck on to this rather thick card. And it's normally sort of a special photo. That's of a person. This is obviously a beautiful wedding. It's just lovely, and they have that old vintagey feel, which I love. I have a couple of ideas on how I might replicate this. So my first thing is to start with a picture that's suitable. So I've got this one. This will be one of them. This is a Tim Holtz found relative, and if I have a look in my box of found relatives, you can see that they're all different. Now that wouldn't be suitable because that's not the type of thing that would have been made into a cabinet card. Neither would that. They were very much sort of photos. That's got some colour in it, so that's probably no good either because they were normally black and white. This sort of thing might be made into a cabinet card. Maybe that one, although that's probably the 1920s. I know that because both my grandparents were married in the late 1920s, and they wore very similar dresses to that, and the short dresses were in at the time for brides. So it's just a matter of having a look at what you've got, and if you can find something that's got a really good portrait, that would also be something that would be made to a cabinet card like this one here, because it's just a very close-up portrait, and frequently that's what they were close-up portraits of the person. I'm starting by putting this picture onto a piece of card. Now this is super hard, this card, so you can hear it's got the same sort of weight as a cabinet card. I've just got this little scrap, the picture will fit on there, and then I'll have to cut it down. Another thing that stands out in the cabinet cards is the bottom was always bigger than the top and the edges. So the picture was always put on so that there was some sort of advertising along the bottom here. So that's why I'm putting this up high, so I can trim it round and leave it with a good sort of 1/2 inch, about the same as that. I didn't measure it, but I'm guessing it's about that much, so that you get that look of a cabinet card out of it. The other thing I'm doing is I'm rounding the corners. Now, I don't have anything that's strong enough to round the corners. If you had a corner chomper, then that would work on this thick card, but I don't have that, so I'm just using my scissors to round those corners. I think that looks fine. Possibly I could have done a better job on that corner up there, but it's too late now. It's done, unless I can push it down. Let's see. Possibly can push it down a little bit. Not really. I think it's stuck on now. I think I'm doomed. Oh no, it's moving a little bit. There you go. All right, I'll try and cut that corner a little better this time, just to get it around. I cut it a bit close, and because the glue's still wet, I was able to just round that off a little better. I think that's much better this time. Now I've got some stamps out and some ink, because I'm thinking that if I stamp something along the bottom here, it's going to look more authentic than perhaps it does at the moment. And I don't have any ink like in a gold or anything. I was thinking silver, gold, but I don't have anything like that. I also don't really have a stamp that perhaps would be suitable, so I'm going to have to try and fudge that as well. So I'm just looking at what I've got here that might be suitable. So really probably want some like numbers or something like that to try and go along the bottom. This little one here that I've never used, so I'll pull it out and have a look at it. It's only tiny, but this surface I'm stamping on is only tiny. Number 5, so that might look all right on there actually. And what else could I use on there? I really need to fix these. They're just not sticking. They probably need a bit of a wash or something to get the adhesive to get back and stick again, because they're just falling off all the time. So let's see what else I've got. I've got got a long one with numbers on it. Maybe that would be better. This one here. Again, I've never used this. But now's as good a time as any, really, isn't it? I think that one might be better because it's actually longer. That one is a little bit tiny. And I'll see if there's anything that kind of can be like matching in terms of a branding. So if I look at these, they've kind of got like a signature on them, but I'm not sure I'm going to get that. So my first step before I put anything on that one is just to test out these different distress oxides I've got out. So the first one is crushed olive. I wanted to see how that comes up. That's actually not too bad. I've just picked out 3 that I think might work. So that's crushed olive, and then I've also got weathered wood, and that's pretty good too. And then I've got scattered straw. Okay, so I've got 3 choices there. Let's just get the card back in. Maybe, I don't mind either of them, or any of them actually. Possibly I'm going to do the weathered wood. I think that might look okay. Now I don't have my stamp block out, but I do have these out that I was going to use for something else. So I'm thinking I'm just going to use this as a faux stamp block and hope it works. The issue with pressing it with your fingers is you don't get the even pressure across all of it, and hopefully this is going to go. I don't know if I smudged that or not. Let's see. Oh, there you go. Yeah, I think that looks okay. It's a bit blobby on the number, on the NO up here, but I guess because, you know, it's vintage, it could be enough that it could suffice as a cabinet card. So that would be one. You've got that nice sort of heavy sound, not as heavy as what the cabinet cards are, but it's still something that I've got there that's a little bit different. So that's one. Now I'm going to look at doing another one. Now this time I think I'll use one of these, which is a Tim Holtz frame, but I'm not sure how these found relatives fit into the frames. You would think if Tim was clever, he would have made them fit perfectly. Look at that. Okay, I want to see if this one would fit. It's a bit skinny for that. So let's get one of these, because maybe something like this would be good. I think those are all really big, those ones. So what I'm going to do with this one is, I just want to use her, not her. And the reason is I want to try and replicate this, where they've done, like they've filtered out everything except the center of the photograph and the rest of it's white. So I was just looking at how I might do that. And I'm thinking that I could possibly use my sanding block. If this doesn't work, I've got some other ideas, but I'm just going to start by sanding the picture off around her. Hopefully I'll get a similar look. The main one I need to get rid of is that lady there. So maybe I'll just draw a really light line around so I know where I'm going. I can always rub this off later if I need to. I really like her in the center, but she's just a tiny bit skewed to the left because of the edge of the photo. I can't manage any more than about that right there. If I go any further, I'm not going to have her thing there. Although, let me just cut a little bit off the edge here. I wonder if I put this right beside her, whether I can get away with pushing it a bit more that way. Not really, it's a bit dark, isn't it? Although I could sand that off as well. All right, so I'm going to sand this bit here, try and get it back to fairly white, and the picture comes off fairly easily. And then sand around her as well, including sanding this part here, and that will help hopefully the transition between those two pieces. Actually, if I take more of this lady's skirt, it's white anyway. So I'll try and get, I may as well just cut that straight up. If I take more of her, doesn't have to be up the right way. It's probably going to be easier to sand that where it's already white and take it back a bit. Trying to get just in the same value range of the whites. If I put that over there now I've got some other things to do before it's finished, so it's still looking a bit funny, but I think I should be able to manage to get her centered a bit better. Let's just take some of this off now. You never know until you try, really. So if you want to do this sort of stuff, you've got to experiment and be prepared to fail, because otherwise you might not ever do it. This sanding block is so old that isn't funny, but it still seems to be working okay. I'm very big into sanding at one point. I'm sure that people who were crafting and scrapbooking, 15 years ago, remember everything got sanded. I sold a lot of sanding tools when I was having my shop. A lot. Just simply because sanding was the thing to do. Right, so I've sanded that back, and here's my sample, and I'm trying to achieve that effect. It's a little bit more scratchy than that, but I still think it looks okay. And when I put this over the top, you can't see the other person that was in the photo because I've sanded her off. So I'm going to start by just measuring where I want this, and then I will cut the bottom of the card off so that I can have it underneath the frame at the back. And I will pop that down, and then I'll put this piece in after I've stuck the main piece down. Now I'll just get this next bit down, and hopefully you're not going to see too much of the transition between the two pieces. I think that goes around the other way actually. Yes, it does. Just push that on there. So I guess you can see that a little bit. I'm wondering how I can overcome that. I could probably start by putting a dark or a light thing on the back like that. That's probably going to help a little bit. Okay, I'll put that on to start with, and we'll see how it looks after I've done that. I think I'm going to have to go to a different option just to try and block that light that's coming through the gap, even though they're butted up against each other. But I think I'm going to make it darker now. This is a patina. It's just a patina, and it's called, who makes it? Let's see, Stamperia Patina Anticante. I don't know how you say that, but it's something like that. And it's like a paste, and it creates like a vintage look. So if I ruin this, I can just pull the photo off and start again. It won't be the end of the world if I do that. I might have to, because that's just not working how I want it to work in terms of that place there where I've butted that one up against it. Okay, let's just pull this off and start again. Also, I want the dark to go all the way through, not just, I can see the edge of it there, and that's not good. Let me just get this on here a bit more, and I think maybe I'll rub it back with the tissue. I don't know if that's going to rub it off or not. Oh no, that's fine. It's just given it a vintagey aged look, and I'll have to put it over now. I can't have it where it was. Just catch it on the edge of that. There you go. I know it's over slightly, it's not quite in line with the centre of the piece, but it's going to have to do, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to use it. And I quite like that sort of colour that it's come now that I've rubbed it back and then put the patina on it. And now I think I'll put something else on here just to make it pop a little bit. And I'm thinking that I have some of this, which is the Tim Holtz tissue paper. Now, I don't know if that would be the one to use. Maybe I'm going to go with the black and white one, I think, or the birdie. So this is the one he made with the birds. And if I just roll this up, I'm wondering if I can get that darling word in there successfully. We'll cut it out and have a go. I don't have any others. No, I'll have to cut this one. Alright, so what I'm using is just the Liquitex matte medium, and I'm going to I fussy cut this out, and I'm going to stick it down on the bottom here, and I'm hoping it will dissolve into the background and it will look like it was already part of the frame. I'll just put the matte medium down, and it is a tiny little bit too big for this, so I'm going to slide it here. I think I want it to come down like that, and then put some matte medium over the top. Let me just get that on, and then I'll just see if I can make this dissolve a bit into the background. Wrap that around the edge there. Now the tissue should, hopefully, when that dries, you're not going to see too much of that. Let's get that off. You can use a brush to do this, but I find that just using the palette knife or my fingers is better. I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm possibly going to put some ink over the top of that in a colour that's similar to what I've got there, just to get rid of that white if it doesn't dry out completely. I want it to disappear. Picture, and I've got the frame, which is a 49 and market frame, and I'm going to cut that off, and I want to put this on the bottom. This is just a bit of tissue paper, but first of all I need to make sure I've left some space on the bottom, so about that much. So I've used some matte medium on there. I'm just going to put this piece of tissue down and rub that over so it melts into the photo, and then you get that nice sort of brown look. Now I will move it over, I think, to the right hand side. So I think that will give a nicer look, and then just cut that off as best I can. Now because I've made that brown, I'm going to get the patina again. I'm going to rub it over the rest of that photograph so it's got the same sort of tone, just a little bit. You can see how her face changed colour when I did that, but it's not obvious that it's been patinaed. It's just a tiny little bit darker. I'll get this side. Now I've also got to be careful because the matte medium is still wet, so I probably should have let that dry before I started this process. And then again I'll just rub it across with the tissue to kind of blend that out. What I'm doing now is I'm sticking this down onto the box, and then I'm going to trim around the sides so that I've got the look of that cabinet card, and then I'm going to put the frame on top. So I've put this onto the box, so again you've got that nice sort of heavy sound that a cabinet card has, and I'm just cutting the edges down a little bit because I didn't want them so far out from where it was. And also I think I'm going to make it so that the frame is a little bit darker, so I don't like the light frame against the photograph. So I will use some more of that patina that I've got, and I'll put some of that on to try and darken that frame a little bit. Let me just grab a tissue so I've got at least something on my table to protect it a little bit. And I don't even know if this will work on here, but it should. It is a bit shiny, this, but it still should take. A bit more. And now I've made 3 different types of cabinet cards. So I hope that's given you some ideas on how to make some faux cabinet cards. Maybe you can come up with your own ideas, and if you do, then you can share them with me on Instagram or on my Facebook group, which is called String Along. And if you haven't already signed up for the Happy Mail list, then please do let me know your address, your name and address, and if possible, if you can also let me know your YouTube name so I know who it is, because I know lots of you don't use your actual names on YouTube, and it's nice to actually know which people who are watching me are on the Happy Mail list as well. So I'm just going to pop this one down, and that will be number 3, and I think it looks better now that I've aged that frame a little bit and made it a little bit darker. And I'll grab the other 2 back in and we'll have a look at those. So these are the 3 that I've made. This is an original, and this is an original. So I think they're pretty good. It's something a bit different, and I hope you enjoyed that. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. This is Deborah. Cheers.